He hadn't been in this room in over a decade. Dust blanketed the shelves like soft memories. The desk stood untouched, as if waiting for him. He opened a drawer, fingers brushing against forgotten things. There it was, an envelope, yellowed with time. No stamp, no address, just a name, to Miss K. Yee. His heart skipped. He remembered now. A thank you letter he'd written, but never delivered. The words had poured out of him once, but the courage never followed. He sat on the bed, unfolding the paper with reverence. The handwriting was shaky, but the emotion clear. And somehow, it still mattered. She had been his favorite. Everyone knew it. Her voice was calm, her patience endless. He never raised his hand. But she always seemed to know the answer he held. She called him thoughtful. It had meant the world. Others saw quiet. She saw depth. He remembered the day she stayed after class just to ask how he was. He hadn't known how to answer, but he never forgot that moment. He wrote the letter that night, heart thumping. He folded it carefully, sealed it with hope. But the next day, fear won. It never left his bag. And then, school ended. Life moved on. But she never left his story. He stared at the letter again, hands wrapped around a warm mug. The world outside was gray, but his thoughts were vivid. What would she think now? Would she remember him? He opened his laptop and searched her name. Dozens of results. Most irrelevant. One caught his eye. A retirement article, photo included. She looked the same, only softer, wiser. The article mentioned a community center she now ran. He tapped the address into his phone. His heart raced again, like the boy he used to be. Maybe it wasn't too late to say thank you. The building was quiet, nestled among trees. He stood there longer than necessary. The envelope felt heavier than it should. He walked in slowly, taking in the warm air and the scent of books and coffee. A volunteer smiled at him. "Can I help you?" He asked for her by name. The woman nodded, then disappeared behind a curtain. He waited, fingers tightening around the letter. Then, she appeared. Older, grayer, but her eyes just as kind. They stared at each other for a long moment. He stepped forward, letter extended. "I meant to give you this a long time ago," he said. She unfolded the letter slowly, hands trembling slightly. He watched, every second stretched thin. She read without speaking, eyes scanning each word. Then she smiled. Then, tears. "I remember you," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Not from age, but from feeling. You were one of the ones I always worried about," she said. He looked down, suddenly that small boy again. "You saw me," he said. She reached out, took his hand. "You mattered," she replied. And just like that, something lost was finally found. The leaves whispered under his shoes as he walked. Each step felt lighter somehow. Her words played on repeat. "You mattered. Yo." He hadn't known how badly he needed to hear that. The world looked different now. Warmer, slower. He watched a child chase a dog and smiled. A breeze carried laughter and memory. He paused by a bench and sat, watching the trees sway. For the first time in years, he felt truly seen. The letter had been for her, but maybe also for him. Back home, he opened a blank document. The cursor blinked, patient. He hadn't written anything personal in years. Now, the words came like a flood. He wrote about Miss K, about the letter, about being quiet, unseen, scared to speak. He wrote for hours, the tea growing cold. By dawn, he had pages, a story he didn't know he'd carried. It was more than memory. It was truth. He created a website and named it The Letter Project. "Do, tell me aside," It started as a way to honor her. But then he thought, what if others had letters too? Unsent thanks. Unspoken truths. He added a form for submissions. A gallery of handwritten scans. He uploaded his own letter and the story behind it. The site went live. He expected little, but the next morning, there were comments. Then emails. Stories like his. Hundreds of them. People finding courage in quiet paper. The project was no longer his alone. He returned to the center, this time with a purpose. Miss K greeted him with a hug and a knowing smile. "They're ready," she said, pointing to the classroom. A group of faces looked up, curious, nervous. He shared his story first, about fear, silence, and change. Then he handed out paper and pens. "Write the letter you never sent," he said. There was a pause. Then the scratching of pens. Words filled pages. Tears filled eyes. Healing had begun. The bulletin board grew heavier each week. Letters from teens, elders, strangers. Some were anonymous, some named. All carried the same weight of truth. People came to read, to cry, to smile. Miss K stood before it one morning, hand to her heart. "You gave them a voice," she told him. He shook his head. "You did. I just remembered." Danny, the board stood as a monument to words never wasted, even when they waited years to be spoken. He stood before the audience, heart pounding. Rows of young faces watched, expectant. "This started with a letter I never sent," he began. The silence was full, not empty. He clicked through slides. Letters, faces, stories. Gasps and murmurs followed each one. "Words matter," he said. "Even late ones." A student raised her hand. "Can I share mine?" Others nodded, notebooks in hand. He smiled. "That's why I'm here." Miss K read in silence, glasses perched low. Each letter still moved her. Years later, some were funny, some heartbreaking, all honest. She pinned a new one gently on the board. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." She paused, breathing through the emotion. The room was quiet but full, echoes of lives touched. She smiled through tears. "Tonight, we're talking about letters never sent," the host said. He adjusted the mic, heart steady. The phone lines lit up. A woman's voice cracked as she read a letter to her late father. A teen boy thanked a coach who changed his life. He listened, tears forming. Story after story poured out. "This is why we write," he whispered. The host smiled. "You've started something big." "I know, da." The room buzzed with crayons, chatter, and creativity. Children giggled as they drew balloons and stars. "Who are you writing to?" he asked a girl. "My grandpa in heaven," she said. Miss K kneeled beside a boy struggling to write. "Start with hello," she said gently. These were small letters, but mighty. He looked around and saw seeds of courage. "You're doing more than writing," he told them. "You're remembering." Time passed. Seasons turned. The garden was quiet, peaceful. They sat on a bench, watching. Children played, laughter floating. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd never found that letter?" she asked. He smiled. "I wouldn't be here." "Neither would they," she said, nodding toward the children. "All from one letter," he whispered. She placed her hand over his. "All from a thank you never spoken, until it was." The exhibition hall was hushed, reverent. Glass cases lined the room, each holding a letter. People walked slowly, reading, pausing, reflecting. Some wiped tears. Others smiled. There were thank yous, goodbyes, truths once buried. A child pointed to one and asked, "Can we write one too?" A librarian nodded, handing out paper. This was more than memory. It was movement. A package arrived, wrapped in brown paper. Inside were dozens of letters from a school abroad, each envelope colorful, filled with drawings and words. They had found the letter project online. The students wanted to say thank you to people who helped them. He read each one, tears forming again. The ripple had reached across oceans. "So it all started with a letter you never sent?" the host asked. He nodded, voice calm but full. "I didn't think it would matter, but it did. Yeah, to know." He shared the story again, simpler now. Miss Kia's photo sat beside the mic. "She saw me before I saw myself," he said. The podcast ended, but the story didn't. Listeners would carry it further. The old classroom had changed, but her desk remained. Above it hung a frame with a single letter inside. The original. Visitors stopped and read. Some cried. It wasn't fancy, just honest. "This is where it started," the guide would say. The man stood before it one last time. He smiled. "Thank you again," he whispered. The desk was quiet, the paper blank. He picked up the pen slowly, deliberately. This time, the words came without fear. "To the future," he wrote. He filled the page with hope, truth, and gratitude. It wasn't about the past anymore. It was about what could still be said, what could still be changed. The letter folded neatly, ready to be kept or sent. Either way, it mattered.